Were you ever that 1 in 1 million? If so, what's your story? Not sure if this is a blessing or a curse, but I'm an extremely tall human. 7 feet 3. Yes, really. Not sure how rare that is. For my 7th birthday we went to Disneyland. They just happened to be having a car a day giveaway when we were there. For my 7th birthday, Mickey Mouse gave me a Pontiac Firebird. I have completely unexplained hearing loss in my left ear. I had a cyst in it when I was 6, and the surgery to remove it and fix the ear was successful. When I was about 12, I woke up one morning with a killer headache and ear ringing, and after 3 days it went away and so did my hearing. Doctors did multiple examinations and an MRI and they said it should be totally functional. It just isn't. 1 in a million case. I had 8 wisdom teeth. The dentist had never seen anything like it and called the whole office in to marvel at my teeth. Edit. Can't find the x-ray but I still have the teeth. I was struck by lightning while talking on a landline. This was in the early 90s. Lightning struck the telephone line and traveled through the handset to my ear. My parents drove me to the ER. I couldn't talk very well. My brain knew what I wanted to say, but my mouth didn't want to say it. I had a terrible stutter. My doctor told me that I had had a dose of good, old-fashioned electroshock therapy. My speech was normal the next day, but I get a terrible headache whenever a thunderstorm comes through. Edit. Or Tokyo Edit 2. Thank you for the gold. I have a very rare skin disease that only 1 in a million people get. I've been told that I'll probably never meet another person in my lifetime with it. Haley disease for those interested. Edit. For those asking. 1. I was diagnosed by a team of dermatologists. They had to take a biopsy of one of my many outbreaks. A picture of a particularly horrible rash is currently in a medical journal, or so I've been told. 2. Yes, it is a very painful disease. 3. Yes, I get steroid injections for it. I also get Botox injections to control sweating and prevent some of my outbreaks. 4. No, I don't know if you have this disease. You have to get a biopsy. 5. Yes, it's inherited. My mother was a carrier, and I've been told my grandmother had the disease for more than half her life. I slept wrong one night and pinched a nerve in my neck so severely I lost the right side of my body. It just went silent like it wasn't there for months. I woke up in the worst pain I've ever experienced and couldn't talk, move or do anything. The ER doctor thought I was having a stroke. My doctor had never seen a case as severe as mine and it was purely a freak accident. Recovery took months but I have use of my leg and hand again, with some numbness. Other than pain and spasms I'm mostly back to normal. I was so freakishly allergic to ant and bee venom as a child that a single sting from a single little common black ant put me into anaphylactic shock. When my allergist was preparing to start immunotherapy for me, he found that the in-office lab equipment wasn't sensitive enough to measure the infinitesimally small amount of allergen with which to start my titration. So he had to send a sample of my blood to Johns Hopkins so that their lab could determine how much to give me. I did immunotherapy for several years to reach an immune response level at which it would be safe for me to basically exist in a non-frozen climate. Good news, though, I'm good now. I've had a few run-ins with ants and wasps since my immunotherapy and my body didn't freak out and shut down. And research indicates that if it hasn't done that after this long, I'm probably safe for, maybe forever. I don't have EpiPens and I'm not overly afraid of ants or bees. Edit. Woo. Overnight response. Thanks for the silver. To answer a few questions. I live in Florida. I am not outdoorsy but stinging things are everywhere. It is, in fact, the Australia of North America. No, my parents would not move me to the frozen tundra to be a nomadic reindeer herder at my behest. Little black ants do, in fact, sting. Several Lasius subspecies have stingers and venom. When an ant bites you, that's using their mandibles and does not deliver venom. When an ant stings you, that's using their butt needle and delivers the pain juice. Most ants do one or the other. Fire ants do both at the same time. I did some research a while back and found an academic paper that indicated that if I haven't had a reaction after this many years, the likelihood that I ever would again is vanishingly rare. I wish I could find it again right now, but I am already late getting ready for work. so if I find it later I will post it. I feel completely safe having a cell phone instead of an EpiPen. I've got the middle toes on both feet webbed, so did Stalin. Quack. I was in 2 separate car crashes in 2 separate cars in less than 45 minutes apart. Also, go you, shark boy. Edit. I wasn't the driver for either crash. First car was hit from the side. Friend came and picked us up. Car lost traction and we slid off the road and hit a pole. Neither was that bad. Just poor timing. My ex was struck by lightning several times and lived. Died in a car accident though, so not as lucky as he claimed to be. Diagnosed with an extremely rare liver disease, primary hyperoxaluria. Some 300 people in the United States currently have it. Basically pass a lot of kidney stones and need a double transplant to fix. Edit. Whoa, just woke up to a whole lot of questions and support. Thank you all very much and thank you for the gold. Edit. 2 golds? Nice. Also I should have been more clear. When I say double transplant I meant kidney plus liver transplant. Edit. Sorry for another edit but I really just wanted to thank every single person who replied to my answer. So many times I'll lose myself in my own mind and feel alone, and the fact that I received support from strangers helps me so much. Some people even offered to donate. Whoa. Just wow. It's hard to express over text but I will forever remember this. Also I wanted to say to check up on the people around you. I may look like a normal person. I don't have tubes running from my body. My head may not be bald but I still suffer mentally. And you know. Kidney stones haha. Just check up on your friends and family and make sure they are doing okay. Thank you everyone. I once guessed a 6-digit random combination on the first try. It was the only try I planned to give, as a kind of scratch pad whatever moment. I have symmetric bilateral coloboma of the iris and retina. Essentially, my pupils are shaped like keyholes instead of circles. A single coloboma is pretty rare. Double coloboma is even more rare. And double symmetrical. Well, you get it. Edit. Obligatory thanks for the silver. Kind stranger. I fell asleep after posting this. And woke up to a bunch of feedback. I posted over in our eyes just now with more information. Got a rare but potentially deadly rash from a medication. I laughed when I first saw the bottle with the warning. And said knowing my luck I'd get it. I did. Ended up in a burn unit with my skin sloughing off. Not a fun week. Edit. Holy it. Big response. It's been amazing to hear how many people have similar stories and are taking meds with high risk. And for those wondering what med, it was Lamictal lamotrigine for me. I am allergic to the cold. Like literally. I get intense hives, swelling, I pass out, and throw up. Doesn't even have to be freezing. Below 45 degrees without a jacket and I can't do it. I have to carry an EpiPen with me in the event that I drink something too cold or have a severe reaction. Edit. Thank you kind stranger for my first silver. I was on Tinder and was talking to this guy. He was supposed to meet me for dinner. I texted him and no answer. Then I texted him on Tinder. Said that he couldn't make it. However, I got a text back from the number. It wasn't the guy that I thought I texted. It was the actor Gerard Butler. I thought he was lying until he FaceTimed me. Nice guy. Edit. Well, I didn't think this post would blow up. First, I didn't go on a date with him instead. He lives on the west coast and I live on the east coast. I didn't keep his number because I respect his privacy. When he FaceTimed me he was super casual and asked me why I was using Tinder and he wished me luck on it. No sure about the odds on this one, but I survived a non-survivable plane crash. I was on an old Po-2, famous for being very safe and uncrushable, on a tour of the deserts in western China when I was like 7. My father's friend who hosted me and piloted the plane didn't survive but somehow I got out with a concussion and apparently passed out for almost a day in the middle of the desert, in the wreckage of the crash. 50 kilometers from the town airport, on the edge of the desert. The people who found me were some tree planters. They plant greens in the desert to protect towns from sandstorm. A lot of people live in these desert towns in China do this. Found me on their way picking up a shipment. And the only reason they looked was BC they were making a bet on how fast the egg would cook in the sand and went off the road to test it. First thing first, According to legends, 15 minutes. I never tested it though. So, according to my dad's, the theory that I might have lived was because the plane was mostly made out of fabrics and wood. So when the plane crashed, the front half collapsed and took the majority of the impact. Though I got knocked out, I was probably covered under the wreckage and in the shades. It cooled me off enough to survive for a day or so. I was actually homeless for 4 years between 19-23 years old. As silly as it sounds, I used to earn some extra money at the time by helping around in a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. It was my biggest hobby when I was younger and was something I felt confident about. I also didn't have a passport or a bank account, so I couldn't get a normal job. UK. Anyway, so at the time I was stuck not earning enough money. Without a passport, a bank account, or a real job. In the UK you won't get hired by 99% of companies if you don't have a passport to prove you have the right to work. So one day I got a phone call from a studio asking if I played Yu-Gi-Oh! And would consider myself a geek. Also if I wanted to be in a TV show. They said they would send me to another country as part of it. Being homeless, the biggest problems is being bored, so naturally I said yes. But told them I don't have a passport. No problem. We'll get you one straight away and pay for it ourselves. I ended up on a show called Geeks that you can still watch on channel 4 OD. Because I got this passport I was finally able to get a job, a bank account, and finally a house. Now I'm looking after my 10-month-old daughter who's playing while I type this. So why Yu-Gi-Oh saved me from being homeless? I might be an anime character's TLDR. Was homeless until a TV company gave me a passport allowing me to get a job and a house. Because I played Yu-Gi-Oh! Edit. This blew up more than expected, so here are some answers to some questions. Also thanks for the gold and silver guys. How did you have a phone? I had a cheap brick phone that would run on battery for a week. Think old Nokias. I used to charge in my local library in Peckham, London. How did I help in Yu-Gi-Oh! I was a judge for the tournaments. They're a referee for the game. How did the TV company find out about you? I was a judge for the game. Basically a referee. The TV show was looking for geeks with different hobbies and they found out about Yu-Gi-Oh! After, assume a Google search, they found the person who run my local tournaments to recommend different players and people, and she recommended me. Why do you need a passport? So in the UK you need a government picture ID and a national insurance number, like social security number, in order to prove you're allowed to work in the UK. I have migraines that cause me to go part or near completely blind, so can't drive due to the risk. So don't have access to a driver's license as ID, leaving me only with a passport. Edit 2. I'm getting some people who are a little doubtful that it can be so hard to get a job while homeless, or to get ID, and are shocked it's taken me long to get out. What's important isn't what you know about the world right now. What's important is what I knew about the world as 19-year-old that just left school. Think back to that age and honestly ask yourself how easy it would be to get a job without a bank, an home address, ID, or experience of anything. Of course now as a 27-year-old I'm armed with so much more knowledge to find a way out. Edit 3. Some people have pointed out that you can get a job without a photo ID, as long as you have a birth certificate. This is true from what I've researched, but isn't common practice from what I had experienced at the time. I wish I could aim this knowledge back to the past but cannot. Edit 4. Thanks for all the love and support. I'm trying to reply to everyone but the amount of comment are really overwhelming. If I don't message back, I'm sorry. Had 11 centimeters benign tumors growing in my spine, resulting in gradual paralysis from my chest down. They had no idea how the tumors formed. Surgery took 11 hours when they thought it would take 4 because the tumors were so complexly woven throughout my spine. I now have pretty much half a spine and chronic pain, but I'd take that over losing my life from paralysis and being unable to breathe. Praying R. Edit. Wow. Thank you for all the support. I didn't realize this was going to blow up as much as it did. If anyone has specific questions and wants to message me, feel free. I am at your service. IE thanks again for all the support and love. It made my day. Zoe. I have an unknown type of autosomal dominant centronuclear myopathy. My type of it is so rare that they haven't even seen it before. Getting diagnosed was a multi-year struggle. They pretty much had to rule out everything else. It doesn't feel great to be in this club by myself. Countless blood draws, MRIs, CAT scans and a Bayesian genetic test. So far, it looks like my father and I are the only ones with it. Yay. Edit. Thank you guys for all the kind messages and support. I really do appreciate it. If anyone is going through the struggle of getting a diagnosis, message me. I can't help with the diagnosis, but I can help with the feelings. Second edit. As a researcher has pointed out, this isn't really rare. Just a type that hasn't really been seen in the population yet. Meaning there is certainly more people out there, just not tested or diagnosed yet. In the future, I'll probably be 1 in 50,000 to 1 in 100,000. Sorry to make everyone think I was 1 in a million. I own a Lego minifigure called MR Gold. This particular minifig was to celebrate the 10th series of the Lego figurine line. They are sort of like grab bags. You can feel for them but you don't know what minifigure you're really going to get. So because they were celebrating they thought it was a good idea to only make $5,000 of these. Anyways, when I was younger and even now I was really good knowing which figures they are simply by looking at the figures pieces and feeling out those pieces. I really like the minifigures cause I thought they were really cool and unique so I really wanted MR Gold and me and my mom hunted for it for a long time but after a while I gave up. Then one day I was at the Lego store and felt the distinct diamond piece and freaked out. Finding this figure was a downright fantasy. I'm 18 now and still want to relive 12-year-old me's pure joy as he opened the packaging. Edit. Thanks for making me MR Gold twice. Also 2 words. This is my mum's story and I've posted it before but she once called her friend back in the day on the landline and another lady answered. My mum asks if her friend was there and the lady says sure I'll get her. My mum's friend hops on the phone and asks how she was here. Turns out my mum got a number wrong when dialing. Called a random house where someone was hosting a Tupperware party and my mum's friend just happened to be attending it. What are the odds of that? The first one I don't know about the exact odds, but I was born on the 7th of July 1977 and weighed 7 pounds and 7 ounces. Sadly though I clocked in at 6:50 am. The other is that around the age of 14 I started to notice the outsides of both of my feet starting to get much wider. After a couple of years of buying expensive custom made shoes they decided to perform surgery on my feet. Turned out I had extra muscle growth along with something else I don't recall at the moment. My podiatrist told me he submitted a scholarly article on it. May also have been genetic as when my dad was 3, he developed an extra toe growing out of each one of his big toes. I had AFM, acute flaccid myelitis, when I was really young. It's like weak polio if that makes sense. My legs struggled to keep me up and I was consistently collapsing. However, the disease wasn't discovered at the time so I wasn't diagnosed. I was in and out of hospitals several times a week, being tested for all sorts of bone cancers. When the disease was discovered I matched every description of it perfectly. But now, I am running cross country and doing alright. Uterus ruptured into my bladder after birth of my youngest. It was 1/4 in, away from a major artery. Nearly died. When I was a teenager I had just started working at the local Sears Auto Center Express Lube shop and on day 1 did a quick orientation and my first oil change. The manager walked away when he felt I was good to go and the oil change went well. Fast forward a few days later my manager asked me to come into his office and he explained that the oil filter I had used had one huge flaw. I didn't know what that was and it turned out the filter was pressed on backwards into the filter can and it wouldn't allow oil to flow and it damaged the motor. They had to purchase a new motor for the person and I still kept my job. He said it was a 1 in a million chance that would have happened and it did on my first oil change. I was diagnosed with leukemia. I got a bacteria growth which killed the leukemia. A real 1 in 1 million chance. Edit. I almost died thanks to that bacteria though. Edit. THX for the silver and gold kind strangers. My sperm did the race straight to the egg. 1. And now I've retired. Thank you. That is all. A bird got into my room through a tiny hole in the ceiling and took it on me. Burb. Hole in ceiling. I was diagnosed with a rare cancer. That happens in males more often than females. Usually happens to patients between 45 and 60 and happens in the abdomen or legs. I was a 34-year-old female and it happened in my right arm. For the record, I'm in remission, but I couldn't believe I defied everything about the stupid ducker. Edit. Okay, I'm going to be that person. My first gold. Thank you, kind stranger. How I met my wife. I'm from the Netherlands. She is from the US. We met in Israel. It was my first weekend in Israel. Decided to go on a pub crawl to meet some people and have fun. As I'm buying the ticket, my now wife walks up to the counter to also buy our ticket. The girl working there introduces us. We hit it off the first night, but I'm leaving in 2 days to stay with friends of friends in the middle of the desert for 3 months. 2 days after I leave, I'll lose my phone. Don't have any way to get back in touch with her. I had little money and could stay work with the people in the desert. But I kept thinking about her, so after a week I say I'm leaving. Take the next bus. Goes 3 times a week. At 5 AM. And then a train to Tel Aviv. I had no idea how to find her, where to stay, and very little money. I email a couple hostels to find a work stay agreement. Those jobs are very popular and usually planned months in advance. I get an email back when I arrive in Tel Aviv. I can come in for an interview because they have a spot. This is already ridiculously lucky. Right after the interview and dropping of my belongings, I went back to the first hostel to see if they would give me information. They wouldn't give me anything. Now I'm at a loss. Tel Aviv is a city of more than 500,000 people. I don't know anyone and have little more than the clothes on my back. Kind of defeated, I start wandering around exploring the city. After a couple hours I get hungry and decide to treat myself to a restaurant. I'm well out of the tourist area and find a place that's almost empty and rather cheap. I sit down, order a drink and something to eat. As I get my food, I see my now wife walking past the restaurant. She sees me, I see her. I'm literally dumbstruck and just kind of grin and wave. Remember how I lost my phone? She didn't know that and just thought I ignored her. She waves and keeps walking. I throw like 200 shekels, way too much, in the table and sprint after her. Explained, and the rest is history. When I was a kid, I was chilling in the water of the Mediterranean Sea in Turkey. Suddenly I felt an awful burning sensation on my stomach and my legs. I looked like I had been brutally sandpapered and I got a 40C, 104F, fever. Turns out I made contact with a jellyfish, and later found out that it hadn't happened on that beach for 10 years or so. I was just extremely unlucky. Not quite 1 in a million, but it sure felt like it. When I graduated high school, I was offered a full ride scholarship, entirely based on academic merit, to study the program I loved more than anything at the school I'd dreamed of going to for years. The school in question was notorious for giving very few scholarships, and the particular scholarship I won is awarded to very few students each year. I'm still pinching myself sometimes. Edit. Wow, my first silver. Thanks guys. Aggressive fallopian tube cancer. 2 years later I had a malignant pleural tumor. Also have late diagnosis of stage 2 and 3 urogenital reflux, which is usually discovered before a kid is out of diapers. I was too old for the surgeons to fix it properly. Also I'm a redhead with blue eyes, hitchhiker thumb, double jointed and have double row of eyelashes. And my kid is a pretty close copy despite her bio dad having dominant genes, half Japanese. Not quite 1 in a million, but close enough. As a child, I had an extremely rare autoimmune disease. On top of having an extremely rare illness, I developed the rarer and most dangerous of the symptoms. My kidneys started shutting down. Most kids recover from this disease, but not always the ones with kidney issues. I was extremely lucky. I did not have to go on dialysis, and my kidneys eventually reached normal functioning levels. It took a decade to be completely cleared of the disease. My mother likes to call me a miracle child, not only because of this, but because she was not supposed to be able to have a kid due to health issues, and had several miscarriages before my stubborn ass decided to be born. Weird it. As a driver in Seattle, I use my turn signal. I have the rarest type of synesthesia, lexical gustatory. It means I taste words. I was kidnapped when leaving work and held for 18 months, along with 2 other girls. The guy who took us claimed himself to be an ineffable lower god and used cult tactics, manipulation and control to have us be his family. I was allowed to leave to the grocery store as an errand, but knew if I didn't come back the others would receive my punishment. I finally got away by stabbing my captor when I believed he was going to kill me. Edit. I did a podcast about the experience, and if you'd like to give it a listen,